Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Gordon Causey, live and unscripted. It's now 1:34 a.m. On this, what is now Wednesday, the 19th of June, very late at night or very early in the morning, however you want to look at it. Candy, as you can see, is here. She's always here. Yeah. What do you want? What do you want? All right. Shake. Lay down. Speak. There you go. Candy has her treat, so she'll leave me alone now. I can talk about what I want to talk about. I have the live chat on, but as it says in the subject line, I recently had a video removed, and this is the first time this has happened. I don't remember exactly when it happened last, but I believe it was over a year ago, and I know that I had, I think 3, maybe 4 videos removed back when the insanity was going on. Sharunyan's here. Anna Monarchy, haven't seen you for a while. Yeah, you made it once finally. Yeah, the video that was taken down was the one in which I was talking about the decline in Canada's life expectancy. I forget the numbers exactly. I think it was 80 Canadians were living on to an average of 82.3 years in 2019, and now that has fallen a full year, and that's as reported by CBC, CTV Global. That wasn't the issue. What I think was the issue was I was relating the death, or not the death, to be clear, not the death. I was relating my interaction with a coworker at my workplace where I'm working now. And this coworker kept getting COVID over and over again. And he was very anxious to get his booster. He was very keen on keeping up with his COVID booster shots because, every time he got COVID, he said it was horrible. And so he couldn't wait to get his next shot. And I hadn't seen him at work for a while. And as it turned out, he's now on, according to my employer, he's on disability. Now, to be clear, am I saying that cause and effect? Am I saying that the reason he's on disability? No, I cannot say that definitively. Do I suspect that there's a potential link between the two? Absolutely. Non-expert, not a medical doctor, blah, 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 blah. But I suspect. And I've talked like this in several videos that never got taken down. And I was beginning to wonder if all the fact checkers and community standards, brown shirt monitor, Google, YouTube monitors, if these, pink-haired fact checker types with their PhDs in gender studies, I was wondering if they had all perhaps themselves died suddenly because it's been over a year. But it seems they're still at it, still working away. And anyway, it is what it is. I'm not going to censor myself. I am going to be more cautious in the sense that I don't like having my videos taken down. And I do have to acknowledge that, I cannot make a cause and effect determination. That takes rigorous scientific study. But when it comes to rigorous scientific study, some news just dropped recently about the state of Kansas. The attorney general in that state has now filed suit against Pfizer and there are a number of allegations being leveled at Pfizer. And one of them is key. A lot of them are key. But the one that stood out to me was the fact that during, according to the allegations filed by Kansas's Attorney General, what they are alleging that Pfizer did is the plan was to have a 2-year follow-up. And Pfizer was engaged in what are called, typically they're referred to as double-blind, placebo-controlled trials. And if you don't understand the clinical trial process, and you may not know what a double-blinded trial means, what a double-blinded trial means is that neither the investigators, those people engaged in the trial itself, nor the participants, nor the patients, nor the individuals taking part in the trial, nobody knows whether they're getting the drug or the placebo. A placebo is a sugar pill. In the case of the vaccine trials, as I understand it, it was saline, salt water. So individuals would receive either the Pfizer COVID jab, or they would receive a saline injection, but neither the individuals investigating nor the patients themselves will be aware of what group they're in. They don't know whether they're in the dosed arm of the trial or if they are in the placebo arm of the trial. And that's the blinding. What happens is, as I understand it, it's done by like lot numbers and randomized lot numbers. And then there's a separate group, sometimes referred to like a data safety monitoring board, and they know who is receiving placebo and who is receiving the actual vaccine. Call it a vaccine if you like. But that's another issue. The data safety monitoring group knows, but the participants and those actively involved in the investigation don't know. And according to the legal filing by Pfizer, or not by Pfizer, but by the Attorney General in Kansas, what happened was the placebo group included over 2,000 people. I think that was the number. And then what they're alleging is that Pfizer destroyed the placebo group. What they did is, while the trial was ongoing, they unblinded the trial so that they would know who had received placebo. And then they gave most of the people who had received the placebo the actual COVID jab. And so now there is no control group to speak of. And typically a control group is of similar size. If the dosed arm is 2,000, you want 2,000 in the placebo group. You want them roughly pretty much the same in size for statistical weighting. And from what I understand, and you can watch John Campbell's video on this, it's his most recent video. He goes through the court documents with all the allegations. And it's also being alleged in that document that Pfizer withheld negative trial results, that they were engaged in fraudulent marketing campaigns. And it's, when you watch his video, if you do, it's massive, this legal filing. But according to Dr. Campbell, it's very readable. That is to say, it's not filled with legalese. There's a lot of plain language in there that even a layperson who doesn't know his habeas from his corpus, a person can wade through it and understand it. If anyone's commenting, I'm going to have trouble because my stream is something's gone weird with it. And I'm just going to try and fix it so I can see if anyone's commenting. I went kind of like a full screen format, and I didn't mean to. And now I can't see any comments being written if they are being written. Just trying to see how to. What happened was I had a bug on my screen, and unfortunately, my screen on my laptop is touchscreen. And so, in wiping off the bug, I went and did something that I didn't mean to do. Share screen, share. Apologize for the break, but I wanted to bring up something that has to do with how Pfizer, if you're familiar with Pfizer, the company, and their history, you should know about a drug called Bextra, Bextra, Bravo, Echo, X-ray, Tango, Romeo, Alpha, Bextra. And this Bextra drug was approved as a safe and effective inflammatory drug back in 2000. It was on the market from 2000 to 2005, so for 5 years. And then the drug was removed from the market. And the reason it was removed ultimately is there were all manner of individuals dying, typically from heart damage. Apparently, Bextra could cause heart problems. I don't know if it was myocarditis and pericarditis or heart attacks or what, but it had to do with heart-related damage. So the drug was removed from the market, and in the wake of that, Pfizer was taken to court, and they were ultimately fined billions of dollars. I don't know if they in paying the fine if there was an admission of guilt. I do know that in these type of situations, quite often what happens is quite often what will happen. I'm still fiddling, multitasking, which is not something men are good at. Quite often what happens in legal proceedings, especially when you get to this level, is that I've seen it so many times where companies will agree to pay a fine. However, there will be, number one, no admission of guilt, but they will agree not to engage in the type of behavior that they never admitted to engaging in the first place. I mean, it's so warped what goes on. Anyway, in that Bextra case, there's on the PubMed site, which is part of the Anthony Fauci's own National Institutes of Health. You can type into Google, I've mentioned it before, Pfizer repeat offender, and you can find a documented paper outlining Pfizer's documented history of withholding negative trial results, engaging in fraudulent marketing practices, bribing members of the medical community, a whole list of heinous, horrible crimes. And again, they were fined billions of dollars for it. And I apologize if anyone's commenting. I cannot see the comments right now. And so the question has to be, does a leopard change its spots? But it gets us to this whole point of informed consent. When it comes to everyone I know, all these people who have had adverse, I got to be up around 20 that I have firsthand knowledge of. Don't take my word for it. Just about everyone I talk to, anyone I've talked to about this, we all have the same common experience. We all know lots of people who have experienced heart attacks, strokes, aneurysms, the emergence of or reemergence of sudden and very aggressive cancers, autoimmune conditions, and the list goes on and on and on. And these kinds of things happened before. They had, people did have heart attacks before 2020 and 2021, and autoimmune conditions did crop up, and strokes did happen. These health issues happened, but in my own, anecdotal look on things, it was never anything near the degree to which I'm seeing now. And man, oh man, oh man, that gets back to this notion I was just going to talk about, informed consent. Because everyone I talk to, not everyone, but a lot of people tell me they only got the short shot or the shots because they were forced to. I had to get it. I was forced to get it to work, to travel, to go to school, to do this, to do that, to take my kid to hockey, whatever the case. And people will say I was forced. And that flies in the face of a principle called informed consent. But informed consent means you have to be informed. You have to be the information. You have to not be the information. You have to have the information. And according to these allegations being leveled against Pfizer, they denied or ignored freedom of information access requests, and they destroyed the placebo group. And so how can you make an informed decision on whether or not to take something if the information is being withheld from you? And then, how can a government force you to take a jab in order to work, travel, or do all these, to be a participating member of society? How can they engage in that's criminal in my eyes for the government to force individuals to take this in order to be a member of society when the individual isn't being given access to all the information. I mean, these words safe and effective are not based on fact. It's a branding statement. It's marketing. Tell a kid who developed myocarditis or pericarditis, heart damage, that they're safe. And there have been cases, documented cases, of individuals where a direct causational link has been established between the jab and heart conditions like myocarditis and pericarditis. So how can you say safe? Not for that individual. It's a marketing statement. And anyway, that's all I really wanted to say. John Campbell's video is short. It's about the same length that this one will be. Maybe his are typically a little shorter. He also does very long ones, interviews. But this most recent one, you can look, and he has links up on his site to the actual, to the court case, to the filing that the Attorney General in Kansas has put. Now, this will take years, I would imagine. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a medical expert, and I'm not a legal expert either. But I don't think you have to be a legal expert to know that these types of things can grind their way through the legal system. They do not move. The legal system often does not move at warp speed, anything but. And one might think that it might be, we've all heard of situations where major corporations will, through various courtroom procedural tactics, can delay and delay and delay and delay, and it almost becomes a war of attrition. So anyway, that's all I had to say tonight. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. I've kind of stalled in and around the 9:20 area. That's okay. Goodness knows, will this video stay up? I don't think I said anything out of bounds, but we live in, is this brown shirt style era coming back where the thought police are censoring opinions? Back in Nazi Germany, you weren't allowed to contradict the science that was being promoted by the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute. And if you did, you'd be in trouble. And now if you contradict, and the same thing has happened during the COVID era, if you contradicted the science that said that the fiction about SARS-CoV-2 being proven to have come from a wet market in Wuhan, China, if you contradicted that, you'd be censored and deplatformed and slandered and silenced. And if you dared to mention Dr. Robert Malone, Dr. Peter Jacobson, Dr. Byron Bridle, Dr. Michael Yeadon, if you Dr. Luc Montagnier, if you dared to I did a video where one of the videos that I had taken down, basically what I did is said, look, I'm not a medical doctor. I don't have a degree in immunology, virology, or any of these other disciplines. I don't have any medical or particular scientific background. So I said, rather than listen to me, and I just rhymed off those individuals' names and a few more. And I said, here, Dr. Robert Malone, Northwestern and Harvard, worked at the prestigious world famous Salk Institute. Check out what he has to say. Michael Yeadon, former vice president and one of Pfizer's chief science officers. Check out what he has to say. Dr. Byron Bridle, who Ontario gave his lab at Guelph University $300,000 because they wanted his expert opinion on the vaccines that were under development in 2020. And Dr. Bridle was long considered one of Canada's leading experts on vaccines. So his lab was funded. I said, check out what he has to say. Dr. Francis Christian, who was a teaching surgeon at the University of Saskatchewan and the editor of a medical journal. Check out what he has to say. And I just rhymed these. Dr. Luc Montagnier, winner of a Nobel Prize. Check out Dr. Geert Vanden Bossche, who headed up programs for Gavi, the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunizations. Said, check these people out. Find out what they have to say. Don't listen to me. And that video got taken down. And now, are we re-entering? Are they going to ramp up again? Coincidentally, I think it's in Las Vegas, another one of those monoliths that we saw back in 2020, these aluminum metallic 10-ish feet tall, three-sided obelisks that look like something out of an old Star Trek episode. There's another one has appeared for the first time, I think, since 2020. First time it's getting a lot of press. So Groundhog Day? Could be. Anyway, God bless, and probably see you tomorrow night. And hopefully I won't have the same issues that I was having now. We'll talk to you later, and sorry that I couldn't see the comments. We'll talk to you again.